Yes, dear students, today we have to discuss the public choice approach. It's a very important subject for the students of BA first year. Public choice approach. Public choice theory is the use of economic tools to deal with traditional problems of political science. Its content includes the study of political behavior in political science. It is the subset of a positive political theory and studies self interested agents, voters, politicians, bureaucrats, and their interaction, which can be represented in a number of ways. Using, for example, standard, constraint, utility, maximization, game theory, or decision theory. Public choice analysis as root in positive analysis. What is but is often used for normative purpose. What ought be to be in order to identify a problem or to suggest improvements to constitutional rules. Constitutional economics. Public choice theory is also closely related to social choice theory, a mathematical approach to aggregation of individual interest, welfares, or votes. Much early work at aspects of both and both field use the tools of economics and game theory since voter behavior influence the behavior of public officials. Public choice theory often uses results from social choice theory. General treatments of public choice may also be classified under public economics. Public economics. The background and development, an early precursor of modern public choice theory, was the work of Swedish economist Kunt Tixell, 1896, which treated government as a political exchange, a quid pro quo in formulating a benefit principle linking taxes and expenditures. Some subsequent economic analysis has been described as a treating government as though it attempted to maximize some kind sort of welfare function for society and as distinct from characterization of economic agents such as this in business. In contrast, public choice theory modeled government as made up of officials who, besides pursuing the public interest, might act to benefit themselves. For example, in the budget maximizing model of bureaucracy, possibly at the cost of efficiency. Modern public choice theory has been dated from the work of Duncan Block, sometimes called the founding father of public choice, in a series of paper from 1948 which culminated in the theory of committees and elections, and later Block outlined a program of unification towards a more general theory of economic and political choice based on common formula methods. Common formula methods. Developed underlining concept of what would become Median voter theory and rediscovered earlier work on voting theory. Kenneth J. Arrow, Social Choice and Individual Values, 1951, influenced formulation of the theory. Among other important works are Anthony Downs, 1957, An Economic Theory of Democracy, and Mancur Olson, 1965. The Logic of Collective Action, James A. Buchanan and Gordon Tulloch Coulthard, The Calculus of a Concert, Logical Foundation of Constitutional Democracy, 1962, consider one of the landmarks in public choice, in particular the preface describe the book as about the political organization of a free society, but its methodology, conceptual apparatus, and analytics are derived essentially from the discipline that as its subject the economic organization of such a society, 1962. The book focuses on positive economic analysis as to the development of constitutional democracy, but in an ethical context of consent. The consent takes the form of a compensation principles like Pareto efficiency for making a policy change, and unanimity or at least no opposition as a feint of depart, departure for social choice. Departure social choice. Somewhat later, the problematic voting theory started to displace the median voter theory in showing how to find mass equilibria in multi-dimensional space. The theory was later formalized further by Peter Coughlin. Peter Coughlin, decision making process and the state. The one way to organize the subject matter studied by public choice theorists is to begin with the foundation of the state itself. According to this procedure, the most fundamental subject is the origin of government. Although some work has been done on anarchy, autocracy, revolution, and even war. The bulk of the study in this area has concerned the fundamental problems of collectively choosing constitutional rules. This work assumes a group of individuals who aim to form a government, then it focuses on the problem of hearing the agents required to carry out government functions agreed upon by the members. Bureaucracy, another major subfield is the study of bureaucracy. The usual model depicts the top bureaucrats as being chosen by the chief executive and legislatures, depending on whether the democratic system is presidential or parliamentary. The typical image of a bureau chief is a person on a fixed salary who is concerned with pleasing those who appointed him or her. The latter have the power to hire and fire him or her more or less at will. The bulk of the bureaucrats, however, are civil servants whose jobs and pay are protected by a civil service system against major changes by their appointed bureau chiefs. This image is often compared with that of a business owner whose profit varies with the success of production and sales, who aims to maximize profit and who can, in an ideal system, hire and fire employees at will. William Niskanen is generally considered the founder of public choice literature on the bureaucracy, expressive interests and democratic i- irrationality. Geoffrey Brennan and Lauren Lomowski claimed that democratic policy is biased to favor expressive interest and neglect practical and utilitarian consideration. Brennan and Lomowski differentiate between instrumental interests, any kind of practical benefit, both monetary and non-monetary, and expressive interests, forms of expression like Apollos. According to Brennan and Lomowski, the paradox of voting can be resolved by differentiating between expressive and instrumental interests. This argument has led some public choice scholars to claim that politics is good by irrationality. In article published in the Econ Journals Watch, economist Barry irrationality in a practical published in the Econ Journals Watch, economist Brain claim contended that voter choices and government economic decisions are inherently irrational. Cap Kaplan's ideas are more fully developed in his book, The Myth of the Irrational Voter, Princeton University, Press 2007, countering Donald Whitman's arguments in the myth of democratic failure. Kaplan claims that politics is, is based in power of irrational beliefs. According to Kaplan, democracy effectively subsidized irrational beliefs. Anyone who derives utility from potentially irrational policies like protectionism can receive private benefits will, while imposing the cost of such beliefs on the general public, were people to bear the full costs of their irrational beliefs. They would lobby from them, optimally taking into account both their instrumental consequences and their expressive appeal. Instated democracy oversupplies policies based on irrational beliefs. Kaplan defines rationality mainly in terms of mainstream price theory, pointing out that mainstream economists tend to oppose protectionism and government regulations more than the general population, and that more educated people are closer to economists on this score, even after controlling for confounding factors such as income, wealth, or political affiliations. One criticism is that many economists do not share Kaplan's views on the nature of public choice. However, Kaplan does have data to support his position. Economists have, in fact, often been frustrated by public opposition to economic reasoning, as some pledgesmen puts it. Economists know what steps would improve the efficiency of HSE, health, safety, and environmental regulations, and they have not been bashful advocates of them. These steps include substituting markets in property rights, such as emission rights, for command and control. The real problem lies deeper than any lack of reform proposals or failure to press them. It is our inability to understand their lack of political appeal. Public choice applications to government regulations was developed by George Stigler 1971 and Sham Flatsma 1976. Special interest public choice theory is often used to explain how political decision making results in outcomes that conflict with the preference of the general public. For example, many advocacy group and pork barrel projects are not the desire of the overall democracy. However, it makes sense for politicians to support these projects. It may make democracy group and for barrel projects are not the desire of the overall democracy. However, it makes a sense of a politicians to support these projects. It may make them feel powerful and important. It can also benefit them. Final, the administration of the activities are very different of the barrel projects are not the desire of the overall democracy. However, it makes sense for politicians to support these projects. It may make them feel powerful and important. It can also benefit them financially by opening the door to future wealth as lobbyists. The project may be of interest to the politicians' local constituency, increasing district votes or campaign contribution. The politician paid little or no cost to gain these benefits as he is spending public money. Special interests, lobbyists are also behaving rationally. They can gain government powers worth millions or billions for relatively small investments. They face a risk of losing out to their competitors if they don't seek these favors. The taxpayer is also behaving rationally. The cost of defeating any one government giveaway is very high, while the benefits to the individual's ex taxpayer are very small. Each citizen pays only a few pennies or a few dollars for any given government favor, while the cost of ending that favor would be many times higher. Everyone invalued as rational incentives to do exactly what they are doing, even though the desire of the general constituency is opposite. Costs are diffused while benefit are concentrated. The voice of vocal minorities with such to gain are here over this of indifferent majorities with little to individual loss. However, the notion that group with concentrate interests will dominate politics is incomplete because it is only one of political equilibrium. Something must incite those preyed upon to resist even the best organized concentrated interest. In this article on interest groups, Gary Becker identified this countervailing force as being the deadweight loss from predation. His view captured what has come to be known as the Chicago School of Political Economy, and it has come in sharp conflict with the socio called Virginia faction of public choice due to its assertion that political will tend towards efficiency due to non-linear deadweight losses, and due to its claim that political efficiency renders policy advice irrelevant. While good government tends to be pure public good for the mass of voters, there may be many advocacy groups that have strong incentives for lobbying the government to the implement specific policies that would benefit them potentially at the expense of the general public. For example, lobbying by the sugar manufacturers might result in an inefficient subsidy for the production of sugar, either directly or by protectional measure. The cost of such inefficient policies are dispersed over all citizens and therefore unnoticeable to each individual. On the other hand, the benefits are shared by a small special interest group with a strong incentive to perpetuate the policy by further lobbying. Due to rational ignorance, the vast majority of voters will be unaware of the effort. In fact, although voters may be aware of a special interests lobbying efforts, this may merely select for policies which are even harder to evaluate by the general public rather than improving their overall efficiency. Even if the public were able to evaluate policy proposals effectively, they would find it infeasible to engage in collective action in order to defend their diffuse interest. Therefore, theorists expect that numerous special interests will be able to successfully lobby for various inefficient policies. In public choice theory, such scenarios of inefficient government policies are referred to as a government failure, a term akin to market failure from earlier. Their theoretical welfare economics, the rent seeking, a field that is closely related to public choice, is the study of rent seeking. This field combines the study of a market economy with that of government. Thus, one might regard it as a new political economy with that of government. Thus, one might regard it as a new political economy. Its basic thesis is that when both a market economy and government are present, government agents provide numerous special market privileges. Both the government agents and self-interested market participants seek these privileges in order to partake in the resulting monopoly. Rentiers gain benefits above what the market would have offered, but in the process allocate resources in suboptimal fashion from a societal point of view. Rent seeking is broader than public choice in that it applies to autocracies as well as democracies and therefore is not directly concerned with collective decision making. However, the abuse pressures it expert on legislators, executives, bureaucrats, and even judges are factors that public choice theory must account for in its analysis of collective decision making rules and institutions. Moreover, the members of a collective who are planning a government would be wise to take prospective rent seeking into account. Another major claim is that much of political activity is a form of rent seeking which wastes resources. Gordon Tullock, Jagdish Bhagwati, and Anne Osborne Krueger have argued that rent seeking has caused considerable waste. In a parallel line of research, Fred McSensany claims that rent extraction causes considerable waste, especially in the developing world, as the term implies. Rent extraction happens when officials use threats to extort payments from private parties. Citation needed the work of the political sentences from such results in it is sometimes asserted that public choice they as an anti-state title tilt, but there is ideological diversity among public choice theorists. Mancour also, for example, was an advocate of a strong state and instead opposed political interest group lobbying. More generally, James Buchanan has suggested that public choice theory be interpreted as a politics without romance, a critical approach to a pervasive earlier notion of ideologized politics set against market failure. The British journalist Alastair Cook, commenting on the Nobel Prize awarded to James M. Buchanan in 1986, reportedly summarized the public choice view of politicians by saying, public choice embodies the only but important truth that politicians are, after all, no less selfish than the rest of us. Recognition, the several notable public choice scholars have been awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics, including James M. Buchanan, George Stigler, 1982, Gary Becker, 1992, Vernon Smith, 2002, and Eleanor Ostrom, 2009. In addition, James Buchanan, Vernon Smith, and Eleanor Ostrom were former presidents of the Public Choice Society. Limitations and critics. Buchanan and Tullock themselves outline methodological qualifications of the approach developed in their work, The Culture of Consent in 1962. If the model, with its rational self-interest assumptions, proves to be useful in explaining on important elements of politics, it does not imply that all individuals act in accordance with the behavioral assumptions made, or that any one individual acts in this way at all times. The theory of collective choice can explain only some undermined fraction of a collective actions. However, so long as some part of all individuals' behavior is in fact motivated by utility examination, and also long as the identification of the individuals with the group does not extend to the point of making all individuals utility functions identical. An economic individualist model of political activity should be of some positive worth. Further, Stephen Pressman, economist, offers a critique of the public choice approach, arguing that public choice actually fails to explain political behavior in a number of central areas, including politicians' behavior as well as voting behaviors. Take politicians' behavior as an example. The public choice assumption that states politicians' utility functions is driven by greater political and economic power cannot account for various political phenomena. These include why politicians vote against their constituent interests, why they would advocate for a higher taxation, favor benefits, and smaller government, or why wealthy individuals would seek office. As per critics concerning voter behavior, it is argued that public choice is unable to explain why people vote due to limitations in rational choice theory. For example, from the viewpoint of a rational choice theory, the expected gains of a voting depending on the benefit to the individuals if their candidate wins, and the probability that the individual's vote will determine the election's outcome. However, even in a tight elections, the probability that an individual's vote makes the difference is estimated to be effectively zero. This would suggest that even if an individual expects again from their candidates success, the expected gains from voting would also logically be near zero. When this is considered in combination with the multiple recognized cost of voting, such as the opportunity cost of foregone wages, transportation costs, and more, the self-interested individuals is therefore unlikely to vote at all. Pressman is not all one in his critics. Other prominent public choice economists also recognize that theorizing voting behavior is a major issue for the public choice approach. This includes critics by Anthony Dawes in An Economic Theory of a Democracy, Maurice P. Pyron, and Gordon Tullock. So this is the very important of the public choice administration. So it is developed by the principal thinker of the socio-political and economics and public administration thinkers for the development of this subject of the public choice. It's a very important and interesting topic for the students. Okay, dear students, we have to follow the public choice thinking. But most of the thinker of the public choice are getting the Nobel Prizes in the concerned subject. Okay, thank you, dear students.